Hey, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at Intel. I'm going to share with you some tidbits after the earnings released. So now what do we do as the stock continues to kind of go lower after good earnings? Stay tuned. We're going to check things out. Keep in mind, it's not a recommendation to buy or sell or trade. I'm just giving you my personal insights on the charts and some technical data and insight. So let's go ahead and check these things out on Intel. And if you want to go ahead and request a personal stock as well for me to review, check out our Discord channel and you can go ahead and do a request or ask me questions in there as well. Now, as we go in and look at Intel, Intel has released earnings. So congratulations to Intel making a bunch of money. And as they continue to produce chips with the chip shortage out there that's going on, all looks great, right? But they state that it's all about the outlook. Now, really, there's a lot of other reasons. It's not never one reason. Humans and we naturally, we're looking for the why. But in the end, it comes down to, hey, there's just more sellers and also the market is just weak, okay? So with a weak market, that's what it comes down to. More sellers than buyers, and the stock is getting sold off. Not to mention AMD does have a huge space when it comes to this. So if you look at the earnings here and we look at the report from the estimated versus the actual, they're doing great, but the market is acting weak. We'll see if things pick up. So the question is this going to be a massive buying opportunity, or is it just going to be a stock that just kind of dwindles and hangs out down here for a couple of years? We'll see. So let's look at the charts. And we're going to take a look at kind of the monthly first and check things out. So I want to look at this monthly chart because it gives people a nice perspective into how things really are behaving and performing. So let's go in even further. Here's actually a quarterly chart. So Intel opened up back in the 80s and the stock did fantastic with a lot of stock splits. So we went there for a while and then we hit some of these highs over here. So what's interesting is when you really look at it, you've got resistance. You're coming in like perfect resistance area. So this becomes a little bit of a problem spot for a lot of stocks because now you've got this huge digestion. So really, you've been in a sideways market in Intel since the year 2000. That's a 20-year sideways market. But is it a buying opportunity? Well, that is looking at a long term. If you're looking at investing 20 years, 40 years, we're looking at sideways market and a possible later breakout. That could be nice, but you're buying at the highs if you're also trying to nibble on it. The nibbling part on a longer term basis would actually be at a lower level, maybe around $11, $12. That's like a really good deal in value. Chances are it's not going to get there, but I'm just showing you that, hey, from a 20-year perspective, that would be a really good deal. Let's zoom into something more realistic and let's go into a monthly chart. Okay, so here is that sideways consolidation we were talking about, and you can see we hit those highs. Here's kind of those lows. You can see that stock was trending and continuing higher. So as you look at this upside move, this is kind of our support level. So this stock is actually still moving into this upside trend and in this upside channel. So this is good and healthy. Here's going to be the problem. If we go ahead right here and break this level, that's going to be a problem. So think about it. Long term, we're still kind of at the top. Medium term right here, we're at the lows. So if you're kind of like, hey, I'm kind of at the lows on this trend, this could be a great buying opportunity. Yeah, it could be, but remember, we could get lower because here's our longer term support level. So from a shorter term perspective, if you're thinking we could get a little bounce here, yeah, this could be actually not a bad spot. Let's go into the weekly here. All right, so as we look into the weekly, here's kind of your charts. You're coming in and you're coming right into that spot and zone. And the same thing right around that $40 price level, 40, 42. There's also a lot of support at this level. So take a look. We got some sideways action at around 60 and we got some base at 40. Again, a lot of sideways price action. And this is also looking at about 1, 2, 3, 4 years or so, about 3.5 years of action. So we're actually in the sideways area and we're getting closer to the lower areas of that sideways action. So if you're starting to think, hey, in a 20-year period, I'm not going to hang on to the stock chart. That's fine. But in the more recent thing, I do want to get exposed to the stock. This could actually turn into a slightly nibbling opportunity because you are going in. And when you look at this stock chart, what's going on is you're kind of getting into a $43, $44, $45 price level where it's starting to come into some better value, okay? You have to recognize that, hey, on the longer term scale, I do have pressure, not only from this chart, from this recent action from the last few years, but also on a 20-year time horizon, we're coming into some problem spots. So if you're thinking that, okay, I just want to play this range over the few years, and I'm okay with a sideways stock for now, in hopes of maybe in the next 10 years it'll break out, that's great. But if you're also concerned about a downward move and some selling pressure later on, because as you see, this is still kind of toppy from that longer term perspective, then in this case, you may want to be careful on nibbling here. You're just slowly nibbling. And if it does pull back, let's say down to 35, you could nibble a little more. So you have to allocate a little less cash to be prepared for maybe a later possible pullback. Again, if you're looking for a longer term. From this shorter term perspective, if we kind of look into this daily price action, 45 seems to be a really good support level. So looking at this daily action, you are getting near the lows. So over the last couple of years, 2020, 2021, 2019, just check it out. We were coming in right into those spots where the stock has bounced. So that's a nice spot for possibly, again, a buying opportunity for the short term. Okay, so those are kind of the things that I'm looking at and laying things out, is that if you're looking for the shorter term, you're kind of coming into some really good, massive buying opportunity, again, for the short term, if you're a short-term trader or investor. If you're a longer term, be careful. You could still get into some of those lower levels that we talked about earlier in the video, and that's where some of the problems could lie in this stock. Other than that, the stock did, from the earnings perspective, did fine and well. And when you usually see a big nasty sell-off, something like this, you'll usually get a snap up sometime later on. But it does take 3 to 6 weeks to digest some of these moves, either to the downside a little bit or some sideways action, and then you might see a rollover eventually. But it takes time. So be patient, understand your duration of investments. If it's like a 10-year, 20-year, 5-year horizon, or maybe just a few days or weeks, then what you're really looking at is kind of these price points. So if you're a short-term trader, you really got to make sure you're able to hold that 45. And here you're already buying it, not at the best value, but it's a pretty good value. And you're going to have some issues at around 65. You'll probably also run into some issues right around 58, where the stock has rejected a couple of times there as well. So keep those levels in check, and take note and budget your allocation of capital accordingly. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you join me on the Discord channel, so that way you could ask some questions, request more ticker symbols, and also go ahead and check out the Traders Fly channel. Why not? If you want to bump your game up with option trading and learn a little bit more about options, then check out that channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.